Hi, I'm Phil Bainbridge, and in this video, we are going to look at collecting Google Form responses via a trigger. So I'm in my Google Drive working folder, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a Google form with just a couple of questions on. So I'm going to go to New, Google Forms. I'm going to call it Collect Form Responses and give the form the same title there. So we're just going to have a couple of simple questions. First one being first name. Now just pay attention to how you type in the question here, whether you put capitals or spaces in, because it's important that you remain consistent throughout, and particularly when we come to the app script. So I just want this to be a short answer. I'm going to add another question in, and this is just going to be shoe size. Again, a short answer. And the other thing I want to do is I want to automatically collect email addresses. So if you go to settings, responses, and just make sure email address is collected automatically. So if I go back to the form here, I can tell them there. So basically we will have 3 pieces of data to be able to work with. The next thing I want to do is I need to create the Google Sheet that collects all the responses, because this is where we're going to put our app script code. So I'm going to click the link to sheet button, and I'm just going to click create there. This will automatically just create a Google Sheet that links to the Google form, so that any form submissions, the data comes onto here. So as we've done before, let's go into the script editor then. We're going to extensions app script. Now let's give the project the same name as our form. So we're going to call it collect form responses, just to keep everything consistent. On the left-hand side here, let's rename the file by clicking the 3 dots, going to rename, and let's use get form data using the camel case naming convention. And let's call the function the same thing, get form data. Pop your cursor in the middle, just to give yourself some space, and hit save at this point. This is everything ready that we need to then start working on this. So the first thing we want to do is I want to get the row number that the data is actually written to. So for instance, the first time this form is submitted, the information will go on to row 2. Then the next time it goes on to row 3, 4, etc. I want to get that row number as a value so that at a later date, if I ever wanted to create a document, for instance, and paste the URL back into the Google Sheet, I can do that. So let's insert a comment with 2 forward slashes and say get row data is written to. We're getting something, so we're going to start as a variable. So we'll do our var data row with a capital R. And we're going to set that equals to. Now, we have something here which we need to include, as you'll see from the instructions, which is our event object, typically shortened to the letter E. Now, the event object is going to contain all of the form data with a couple of other things when the form has been submitted and the trigger has ran. So we're going to make sure that we've got E written in there in our brackets. So down here, we can type in E dot to perform some methods of it. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the instances where AppScript's autocomplete does not appear for us. So there's about 2 lines of code in here that you'll just need to remember or write down or make a note of or get used to using, basically. So we're going to do e.range.getRow with our open and close brackets. That is going to give us the row number that the data from the form has been submitted to. So on the line below, let's just do a logger.log, because that's how we're going to check that this all works. I'll put our single or double quotes in and go current data row is with our colon space plus our data row. So all we're doing there is we're concatenating a sentence and the variable so that it looks nicer in our logger. Semicolon to end the line and hit save at this point in time. We'll carry on collecting the rest of the data, and then we can try this out at the very end. So the next thing we're going to do is going to insert another comment where we want to get all form values. This is everything that's been submitted by the form. For us is 3 pieces of information at this point. So I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call it form values. And again, we're going to call this event object our E. I'm going to put a full stop in there for the method. And the method we want is named values. Now pay attention to lowercase n, capital V, and there are no brackets on this at all. So you just put your semicolon there like so. And hit save to check you're happy. So I'm just going to insert a little bit of space now. I'm just going to use a comment just to help format this next section. So I'm going to insert a comment. I'm going to put some asterisks in, and then I'm going to put get individual form values. I'm going to put some more asterisks in like so, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it a bit further down like so. What I'm basically doing is I'm just creating a section of text, because the code we're going to write in here now is going to be extremely repetitive. It's going to be repeated for every single question that we've got. Now, for us, that's only 3 questions. For you, you could have a form with 30, 40, 50 questions. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the email address. I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it email address. I'm going to set it equals to. So form values contains our 2D array of all the values from the Google form. So I'm going to call that there. Just do a quick copy and paste this time instead of typing it out. Now we're going to open and close our square brackets. When I open them, the app script automatically creates a closed one. Now this is where typing is critical. The safest thing to do here is to go to your Google form response sheet, click on the column heading for the question that you want, copy it, and in single or double quotes, I'm going to use double quotes, paste that exact value in. And then because we're in a 2D array and we just need the one value, we're going to pop on another set of square brackets with a 0 in there and a semicolon to end the line. It is crucial that this is written exactly as it is in the response sheet. If you were to put a capital A in there, it will fail to pull through the relevant value. Let's stick a logger.log on there so we can check what we've got. So I'm going to put email address is with a space plus our value that we've got up here, which I'll copy and paste again in this instance, like so. So I hit save. So the first line is getting the email address from the submitted form data, and the second line is just logging that so we can prove that this has worked. Let's repeat this for the first name then. So create a variable, call it first name. We need to get our form values. We need our open and closed square brackets. Again, first name, I'm going to go to my Google Sheet, copy, and in single or double quotes, paste the exact value in there, pop a 0 in, and a semicolon to end the line. Let's put our logger in, so logger.log. First name is, with a semicolon there, and save. Rinse and repeat. Let's do this for our final one then, which is shoe size. Var shoe size equals our form values that we have. Open and close square brackets. Shoe size this time. So if I go back in here, copy that, paste it in single or double quotes so it turns red for text. Pop our 0 in and a semicolon, and we'll log that as well. So we'll say shoe size is shoe size, and hit save at that point there. So we have everything we need for what we've created here now to give this a whirl. The next thing we need to do is create the form submit trigger. So on the left-hand side here, if you go to the little clock icon and then it says triggers, And then if you've not seen this page before, you may get a dialog box in the middle welcoming you to it. You can just click away from that to dismiss it. What we want now then is add trigger at the bottom right. Now, there's not really a lot we need to change on here. Choose which function we want to run. We only have one function that we created, and it was called get form data. We don't need to change the deployment head. We don't need to worry about changing the event source, but we do want to change the event type, and we want to change that to on form submit. So we say the trigger only runs when the form has been submitted. If you just scroll back up at the top right, the only other thing you might want to change is the notification settings to notify you immediately. That basically means if this fails whilst you're building it, you'll get any of the emails instantly, rather than at the end of the day when you might have finished and forgotten what's happening and wonder what all these emails that are coming in are about. So when you're happy, click Save. You'll now need to authorize this against your Google account. Please make sure you are not logged into more than one Google account at this point in time. This is the account against which the trigger will always run for. So this account must remain active going forwards. So now we have an entry in there. We don't have a last runtime. We don't have an error rate at this point in time. Let's test it out then. So if we go to our Google form, if we click the preview option, so I'm going to let it record my email address. Just going to put a name in there. And I'm just going to pop in a random shoe size as well and hit submit. Nice and easy. If I go to the response sheet, we are not changing anything that happens here on the response sheet. So this still automatically collects the information, but we now need to see where the data's gone. Now we put that in a logger. So what we can do on the left-hand side here is we can go to executions, and what we can see is an entry for the timestamp that we've just submitted that Google form then. We can see it was a success. If I click on that now, the logger will collect the 4 pieces of information that we coded with the app script. So we've got the data row 2, the email address, the first name, and shoe size. That is us successfully collecting form data that has been submitted using a trigger. Thank you very much.